official.
Yeah.
Like I said, the intro song is like Hollywood. Fresh black coffee, take 3.
Yeah. Now, you know the practical purpose of the slap board.
Yes, to sync the audio and the video.
Exactly.
Right.
And, people see me just kind of getting into mouthing the words.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually helps me in post-production to sync the movement of my lips to the sound that's coming.
Right. Because Dave does post-production. See, a lot of times he'll have to take our Facebook feed, the video, and sync it up with the audio because somebody forgot to hit the audio button. All right. It only happens about 3 out of 4 weeks at a time. Fortunately, this week I caught it early enough. Usually happens about 10 or 11 minutes into the show, and I look down and why is that light still green instead of red? Yeah. But anyway, fortunately today I caught it early, and we were able to do on take 3. It only took three tries. So anyway, hey, welcome everybody. Facebook and our normal blog podcast feed. Our blogcast, whatever we want to call it.
Can I wrap up one thing from you?
You know what, Dave? For some reason, is your mic on?
That helps if
I turn it on. Take 4. Fresh black coffee. Take 4.
Those who are watching the pre-show over on our Facebook page, Fresh Black Coffee on Facebook, we're talking about all of the social media, and some of it's just ridiculous, okay? I'm going to defend Pinterest a little bit.
Okay.
Pinterest is like a scrapbook. People, when they do Pinterest, it's not about them. It's not a bunch of pictures of them where they went on their date and the concert they went to and pictures from, this weekend's trip out of town. It's about things I like. For instance, people have me do some work on their house, and I'm a home improvements contractor, and they say, by the way, that gate on the fence really needs to be replaced. Can you put a new one in? I said, okay. Now, do you want just plain Jane, or do you want some little bit of style to it, architectural? Because we can do some things. And I go, what do you got in mind? And I say, get on Pinterest and look at some of the designs. Just type in fence gates. And that works. Because they'll find all kinds of things. They'll send me a picture, say, put that in. So Pinterest does have.
But can't you just get on Google and put fence gates and see the same thing?
You can. You probably can. But then you're looking at Google Photos and that. But this is more curated because people who do it will have collections. And they enjoy doing that. It's like people like scrapbooking. Okay? So. But it's not so look at me like Instagram is. Instagram's about vanity, generally, I'd say. And Facebook tried to, before they bought out Instagram, they took an aspect of Instagram and they called it stories. Because stories only stays up on your Facebook wall for one day.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And Instagram, much of it's much like that. You can have some things more static, but most of what you put on Instagram is gone in a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which brings us back full circle to what started this. Facebook was competing with Twitter and came out with Threads. And Threads was actually started by a bunch of fired Twitter people. People that got fired and let go from Twitter went to Facebook, and Facebook basically stole a lot of their technology and their intellectual not integrity, well, that too, but intellectual property. And of course Elon threatened to sue, but even with that, they have what, Dave? What has happened to Threads in the last week?
The user participation has just crashed.
40%. I know. I just last I saw 40%. Instantly, of course, everyone wanted to jump on board Threads and so forth, but now all of a sudden it has dropped precipitously. One reason what started this conversation is the fact that you had to have Instagram, correct? You had to join Instagram, have an Instagram membership to be able to get Threads. And I think that kind of what's interesting, for example, Twitter, okay? Twitter, they have this, I don't know if you heard of it, the blue check mark.
Yeah.
You have to pay to get the blue check mark. Now, what the blue check mark does, it allows you, 480 characters instead of 240.
Is that right?
Yeah. It doubles the amount you can write. For a person like me, but I won't get a blue check mark. I'm just too cheap. I don't want to give Elon my $5. Sorry, Elon. I love you, buddy, but I don't want to give up my $5 a month for my blue check. I mean, it's only $5, but so what I have done, I've learned shorthand, computer shorthand, or what would you call it? Keyboard shorthand. So, like instead of writing and, I use the and symbol. When I say two, instead of writing TWO, I'll use the number 2.
Yep.
I mean, I'll chop. It's a whole new language. I have this. I have a pseudonym for those of you that don't know. I've used it since I was in college. When I was a disc jockey in college, I had a fake name. It was C.B. Edwards III.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you didn't know that?
No.
Okay. Well, new news.
Yeah.
Breaking on Fresh Black.Coffee. Yeah, I was known as CB. In fact, my college friends, all of my fraternity brothers, when I see them, hey, CB. I'm known as CB, and it stood for cold-blooded Edwards III. That was just some name I made up, and so they all know me as CB. A lot of them don't even know my real name, which is funny. A lot of college people, they just know me as CB. But anyway, so where was I going with all of this? So the shorthand. But anyway, so I've learned to compact maybe 200 words instead of 240.
Yeah.
But I've been able to get them down to 200 words just by my own CB glyphics.
Yep.
My own language.
Yep.
So, but I really thought, why do I do that? If I like Elon, what he's doing, what he's trying to do, why deprive him of his $5?
No.
Just go ahead and give him his $5.
And when he announced that change, it made a lot of sense. Because in order to get your blue check, they would do it for free under Jack Dorsey's administration.
Right.
But you had to be one of Jack Dorsey's favored friends or people, And what was happening was initially public figures, they would do it for all of them. Well, then they started taking away the blue check from guys like Glenn Beck and stuff. And it was a way also to certify you as being authentically you.
Right.
So there was all kinds of ways of proving it. Well, that takes manpower. And it's like, you know what? All you celebrity folks, all you Hollywood, the beautiful people, you want that, you pay for it.
Right.
And so that's...
But he lets the other people still be on without having to pay for it if you don't want to.
Exactly.
I'll tell you what's really funny, though. Here's what's funny. Okay, you know how Facebook... And what's funny, you just see Facebook following Elon. Elon is really leading the way. So I'm writing, something, somebody, AOC or somebody will tweet or something, or somebody will tweet something about Trump or the hearings this week, which we will cover here in a little bit. And they'll make some stupid remark. And I'll write, you idiot. No, serious. And what an idiotic statement, or, what side of the moon did you come from? Or so, it'll be an insulting remark. Okay. Yeah. And I'll send, and it says, this post can be construed as being insulting. Mm-hmm. Did you really mean to say that? Mm-hmm. Yes or no? Mm-hmm. It says, yes, send anyway. Mm-hmm. Or no, let me rephrase.
Yeah.
And I'll hit, yes, send anyway. And it says it right. Yep. So they're giving you the option to send it or not send it. and it will send it. So, so now all of a sudden on Facebook, rather than redacting or sending you to Facebook jail,
yeah,
Facebook is starting. I don't know if you've seen it, but I've seen that pop up on a few things where they will ask you, well, this may be hurtful, or this may be insulting or something, and do you really want to do that? Blah blah blah, and then you can. So it's like Elon is reshaping, or that woman, that lady he got from Universal. Mm-hmm. I don't know if
that's running it now.
Yeah. So if you don't know, Elon has handed over the reins of Twitter to this woman who is running NBC Universal, and so she is now the CEO, and he is pretty much just the owner. And so it sounds to me like she's doing a lot of more conservative people were a little bit afraid of this lady coming on board.
Yeah,
that she was going to go real liberal on it.
Right.
But she hasn't. I mean, it's just,
right.
I think he had a good come to Jesus meeting with her, if you will, and said, look, this is how we're going to, can you do this? Can you live with this? And she's done a great job. And, I mean, and it's growing. Twitter is doing really well. You still got all these people who said they're going to leave. I can't stand to be on here, and they just attack Elon, and he just doesn't, he just goes on with it. But it's really a great platform now to be on, and if you like to argue with idiots, in fact, my wife is into this game. Words with Friends. Are you familiar with it?
Oh, yeah. Scrabble, basically. Yeah.
Do you play Words with Friends?
It used to be the rage about 8-10 years ago.
So people always ask me, do you like Words with Friends? Do you play? Oh, yeah. I do it every day on Facebook and Twitter. I have Words with Friends.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I'm awake.
Yeah, that's my Words with Friends. I don't need to be trying to make up stuff. I have Words with Friends, and some former friends. And I think in all the time, I've only had maybe one person that defriended me. Yeah. That I know of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway. The other thing I don't like about Facebook is that I have like 4,800. I haven't reached that 5,000 mark because I quit, where it says all these friend requests.
Yeah.
Because I don't even know them, so I'd be there clicking on it. Okay, So I could get to the 5,000. But then I hear once you hit 5,000, you got to get a new identity. They only let you have 5,000 per your Facebook.
Yeah, it could be that, or maybe they convert you to a page, like a public figure page.
Oh.
I think that might be it. You still have yours, but then you have to toggle back and forth. Are you posting this as the public figure, or is this your personal account for the?
Is this CB Edwards or is this Eddie House?
Yeah, kind of thing.
But yeah, okay. So I didn't, but I just didn't. I really don't want to deal with that.
Take Sarah Palin.
Right.
When she was the candidate for vice president, that's when Facebook was really booming and stuff. And you could not become her friend. You had to click like. See, and the friends turned into likes on that. Nobody knew what her real account page was. That was for the family. Do
you remember what that used to be called when it started?
No.
Fan.
Okay.
Remember you had it, and I refused because I was never going to be a fan of anybody.
Oh, right.
So and I guess they got the hint that a lot of people didn't want to be a fan of whoever it was.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan, and then they changed it to like.
Right, because like on Instagram, they call it follower.
Follower, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because that's what you're doing, whether you like them or not. You're what do they call it? Trolling them.
Hey, I want to share this real quick before it slips in my mind and I don't do it. I got a message Facebook message, by the way, this morning, interestingly. I do like Messenger. I use Facebook Messenger all the time.
It's handy.
And you can make phone calls.
Yes!
Yes! Anyway, you remind me of J.B. Smoove.
Yeah.
Have you? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm all over the place
Yeah,
this
he
morning.
is. He's had his coffee.
Anyway, it's a commercial, and it has J.B. Smoove. He's Caesar, and he's at this table, and he's got the what's the quarterback? Famous from Tennessee, Indianapolis.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness, how can I not? His dad was the famous Ole Miss quarterback. Then the brother
Manning.
The Manning family.
Peyton Manning.
Archie, Peyton,
Eli.
and Eli.
Yeah.
Well, some of you may not know there's another brother.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know his name, but he's the father of the new Manning, the next one,
Okay.
Arch.
Yes.
Not Archie, Arch.
Yeah.
He's at Texas.
Mm-hmm. There we
Anyway.
go. That'll cost you.
Yeah, that'll cost me. Arch, I'm going to lose fans?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, if you were an SEC team, you would have to pay a penalty now. See, SEC has already said that's not going to be allowed in the SEC.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, SEC.
And I think that's mostly to punish Sooner fans who are going to the SEC.
See, Sooners, see what you get when you move over there?
Yeah.
Anyway, so they're all sitting around this, and they're playing Scrabble. Mm-hmm. And this king, who's J.B. Smoove, who is really one of the funniest black people you'll ever meet, just being who he is, and he's up there, and they're playing charades, and he's going through something that makes absolutely no sense, and so you got Archie, Peyton, and Eli on one side of the table, and they're throwing these guesses, and then the other brother over here, and he comes with this long drawn out, and all of a sudden JB said, yes, just like you did. Yes, yes. He starts yelling. They start hugging. But, I mean, there's no way you could ever get, because it's this long convoluted. It's one of the greatest commercials I've seen. It was so good. But
I'll have to find that. Maybe put it on the end of today's episode.
Yeah, it's really.
Look for it, folks.
Yeah.
If I can get it, that'd be awesome.
But anyway, so as I was getting up, looking at different things, I get this message on Facebook, and it's from a guy named Daniel Armour. And Daniel, if you're watching, I told him, that I would mention, and he sent me this message, belated happy birthday, because I turned on Wednesday.
The big 7, huh?
I'll take that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so and then we shared, and then he shared with me that he accepted Jesus on Easter Sunday this year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That was very good. And he talked about all of the people who had shared the Lord with him throughout his life, but it didn't sink in.
Yeah.
And it just reminds us of the scripture, some plant, some water, and some reap. So don't ever, whoever you're out there, don't quit sharing what you know to be the truth. Don't quit sharing the Lord, because you don't know when it's going to take root and finally have fruit. I remember, I may have told this story, there was a young lady at this place I was working, and I was sharing the Lord. I used to be just super radical Jesus freak. This was back in the Jesus Revolution days when I was one of those Jesus freaks. And this girl actually went to the manager and complained about me. And they told me I had to stop harassing.
You're too loving.
Yeah. It wasn't sexual harassment. It was Jesus harassment, or
too much joy.
Religious.
Can't have all that joy here.
Yeah. And I was just asking her, if her life was really fulfilling to her, and she just, so she didn't like it. Well, anyway, years later, I got transferred to Dallas. A year later, I got transferred to Dallas, then went to seminary, and then eventually went overseas.
Mm-hmm.
And this is probably 6-7 years later, I went back to El Paso,
Mm-hmm.
and this girl that I knew said, "Eddie, by the way, you remember Marcy that worked with us?" And I said, "Yeah, I remember Marcy." She said, "Yeah, I know. She got you in trouble. But she wanted me to tell you that she just wants to thank you because she accepted Jesus. She never forgot what you told her. She never forgot. She couldn't shake it, and she accepted Jesus. And she just wants to thank you." She said, "If you ever see Eddie, please thank him for everything he told me because I never forgot it. And finally, one day, I gave in, and I accepted Jesus."
Wow.
And I said, "Wow." You know, I'm thinking, you know, and because you're thinking this was wasted. And another time in California, shortly after that, sometime after that, about a year or so after, there was a Mormon girl. And of course, I don't know, I may have gone overboard, I don't know, but I was taking a cult course under Walter Martin.
Oh, remember Walter? Yeah.
Yeah, Kingdom of the Cults. He wrote the
Yes.
book. Well,
he had a radio show. It was fantastic.
Yeah, and I actually got to take his class and got to know him. We'd go to his house and have these parties and stuff, barbecues, actually. But anyway, so... So I'm studying about Mormonism, Jehovah's Witnesses, and all. We're digging deep in all of this. And so I remember somehow starting to talk to this girl about Mormonism, asking her if she knew she was worshiping a demon and different, just, did you know this? Did you know this? What about this? That I had the girl in tears and basically made the girl quit her job. I really came down hard, and I actually felt bad about it, and because I felt like maybe I in fact, not just then, I still today feel that I may have been too harsh, but who knows? The day may come when we're in eternity, and it might be a similar thing to this girl, Marcy, that it was the thing that turned it around for her. She may have started looking into it, questioning, and, I hope so. I hope that I didn't damage her, further or permanently. I don't know. But anyway, we shouldn't give up hope or shouldn't give up just never be silenced. Don't be afraid to tell people about Jesus. Just trust God. Remember, He convicts. The Holy Spirit's the one who convinces. He uses us. All we have to do, I think I told this story how I was in Austria in this Nazi area, and I'm preaching, and these guys are looking at me, laughing and yelling and walking by and doing all this stuff, And I remember the Lord at that point just showed me, He's not holding me responsible to convince them.
That's
just
it.
To tell.
And I tell I do appreciate what Walter Martin has done in his life, and there's other people that tend to focus more on doctrinal purity. But you do have to keep some balance in there, because I think of something the theologian Stuart McBurney said to Paul Crouch one day on it was on Praise the Lord on TBN. He said, as a young theologian in seminary out there in California, he wrote to C.S. Lewis. This is back in the early 50s or mid-50s. And Lewis was already very, globally known. And he said, how watered down can someone's Christianity be and he still be saved? And C.S. Lewis wrote him back, said, Christianity doesn't save anyone. Jesus does. Doctrine doesn't save anyone. Jesus does. I mean, I grew up in Catholicism, and there's much of it that I no longer hold to doctrinally. But I know my mother loves the Lord.
Yeah.
And she's a devout Catholic. I have friends, I have clients, customers who are, one's been a Mormon bishop. And I have some of the most wonderful Christian fellowship with them, you know. And because we talk about what has God done in our lives, right? And, you know, their doctrine, the Holy Spirit has not called me to redoctrinate them, you know. And now if God's called you to do that, you do that. But, I mean, John MacArthur came here to Tulsa back about 25 years ago and held some meetings downtown where he is going to expose Kenneth Hagin as a heretic. And I found out it was Tulsa Bible Church that sponsored those meetings. Well, Debbie and I were switching churches. Let's try this. So for a little while, we went to Tulsa Bible Church. And I told one of the elders there, I said, yeah, I'm a graduate of Rhema. And I said, I'll tell you what, you run some meetings like you did with John MacArthur again. And I said, my tithe is going to start going to Kenneth Hagin Ministries. You know, because when you talk about withholding tithes from a church, now you got their attention. You know,
isn't that funny how that works?
Yeah,
Yeah, anyway. That's a shame. I mean, it shouldn't be that way. But man, you've triggered so many things in my mind. No, I know. Seriously, you know, speaking of John MacArthur, you know, he has come out lately against the movie Jesus Revolution and against Calvary Chapel, you know. But there's video of him years ago praising Chuck Smith, praising Calvary Chapel and the Jesus movement and everything. And it's like, I don't know. I think some of these men, it becomes about their kingdom. It's no longer about the kingdom, it's their kingdom. And once Chuck Smith and Calvary grew to a point where it encroached on his kingdom, I think it became threatening, and somebody has to stop because they're teaching something that doesn't line up with our teaching. I think of, to me, Chronicles of Narnia. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, you're explaining it. I've got to do something on the camera. I'm listening.
Yeah, okay. Chronicles of Narnia, 7 books. Okay, 7 very, very important books. They're considered children's books, but I honestly believe that as Jesus, unless you are as a child, you can't enter into the kingdom. And so they're not really written for children. They're written for the child in you and me.
Yeah.
That's why if you still have the spirit of a child that Jesus is trying to speak to, you will understand everything he is saying in the Chronicles of Narnia. If you don't, it's going to be a children's book to you. Oh, this is a cute book. Let me read this. You won't get it. Isn't that amazing? You won't get it. But there's a book, the last book. It's called The Last Battle.
Yep.
Okay. There are 2 things that I can never shake. Two parts. I think we may have talked about one of them before. It's The Horse and His Boy. Do you remember me telling you the story about where the kid, he's been on this, Aslan sends him on this, I guess it is Aslan. Somehow he's on a mission, and he's supposed to warn this kingdom that the enemy is coming. And he's going through all of this stuff. I mean, he's just a kid.
Yep.
But he's been tasked with this mission of going to warn this kingdom that the enemy is coming, but he's got to warn them. So he's got to go to this village, and he goes through trials, tribulation. He's attacked by a lion, okay, and everything, and all kinds of other things. And so he gets away from the lion, and he gets there, and he warns them, and he's sitting there, he's worn out, and people are praising him and telling, oh, thank you for time. They're all ready and safe. And then somebody says, hey, you've got to warn the next kingdom, which is even farther. And he's saying, what? Wait a minute. I was asked to do this. I should, I'm enjoying this prayer. I should. And Lewis throws in this. By the way, the lion that attacked him actually actually turned out to be Aslan, or Jesus attacked. It was a trial that he brought against it. I mean, the things he threw in there. But anyway, but he throws into this little parenthetical thing saying, for he had not yet learned that the reward for a task well done is to be given a greater task.
Yeah.
Whoa. That was the reward for doing a job well is to be given a greater job to do.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's The Horse and His Boy. That's the next to the last book. The last book, The Last Battle, that's an interesting one.
It is.
It's about the Antichrist and the beast. So this guy is a charlatan, and he tries to pretend to be Jesus. It's a fake Jesus, a fake Aslan. He finds some dead lion he puts on, and he's got this donkey. That's his prophet, his priest, that hail to the great Aslan. And so they're running this game on all the people, and they're deceiving them.
Yep.
And in the end, basically, they have them come into this big tent, and then the people go in to meet their maker, basically, meet Aslan. And it's interesting because, and it's the good and and basically the enemy in this thing, the way he describes them, they're Muslims. There's no other way to figure it out. It's Muslims, Arabs, Muslims. So anyway, they go into this tent. I'm ruining it for everyone.
Yeah.
But you still need to read it because everything leads up to this. So anyway, they go in, and the people who profess to be the Aslan followers, the Christians, they go in, and they're supposed to meet him. Well, when they go in, there's this demon, this demonic being meets them. It's this horrendous beast, and it tears them apart or takes them off. And then you've got Aslan meets the good people, the people who have been true. But what's interesting, there's these Muslims, the enemy, they go in, and they've always worshipped, and that's what's coming back to our discussion here about your Mormons or your Catholics, or that they've worshipped God in spirit and in truth, even though they didn't know who he really was.
Exactly.
And so it talks about this Muslim or whatever these people are, but they go in and he meets him, and he's just puzzled. He said, "What? I can't believe that I've been told all my life." He's something, and the whole thing, he starts, Aslan, walking with this soldier and starts explaining everything to him, explaining it all to him, and to let him see that you've been worshiping the right thing, but the wrong person.
Yes, worshiping a false god from a pure heart.
Right.
So when it is revealed to you the true God, a pure heart will leave the old and embrace the new.
Right. You've had the right idea of God. It's just the wrong entity was presented to you as that God.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's almost a philosophical thing. It's like you being told that, you've got two women up here, and you're wanting to worship purity and holiness, or this or this or this, beauty and da-da-da. But then when you actually meet them, the one you actually have been worshiping is this one. This one is a fake over here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you've been following this one all along, and you don't find out until the end that that's not what you were really seeking after. This was the one that you really wanted.
Yeah.
There's so much there. But anyway, you have to read the books. Start at the beginning. It leads up to it. There's so much more in all of the books. But, man, those last two are, to me, they get more serious. Chronicles of Narnia, then Voyage of the Dawn Treader, Prince Caspian. I mean, You name them, they're
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I did want to say, because we started, Daniel Armour, congratulations. Welcome to the kingdom.
Yeah.
I know it was Easter, but thank you for sharing it. And we just want to honor you. And all of those of you that have come to the Lord recently, all of you old timers like us, and those of you that aren't there yet, just don't fight it.
Yeah.
Just go with it. So, all right, Dave. So
I've had exciting last 24 hours.
All right. Tell us about your 24 hours.
Well, a couple of things. First of all, and this will tie into something and check another thing off our list. So yesterday was my annual physical, and my primary care physician, good guy. He's been my doctor for a dozen years. Well, actually 14 years now. So he, I'm waiting and waiting. Yes, you know it is in doctor's offices. I'm waiting. And then a middle-aged woman comes in, dressed in clinical, scrubs. And I'm looking at her because I'm thinking, I might be due for a prostate exam, right? No, a woman comes in, I'm like, God, And, she said, no, I'm not. Your doctor will be here, this fella, and she says, he's got a pretty full schedule and he's a little behind. So I'm going to take care of some of the health history and vitals and stuff. And, she has me breathe in, breathe out while she's got the stethoscope, that kind of stuff. And then we review all the health history back up, and stuff. Okay, is that still going good? And we get to talking, and Eddie, I said, so are you new here? She says, I'm actually kind of filling in. It's Friday and it's vacations time. And she says, I've actually been working over at the Low T Center. And I'm like, oh, I said, good friend of mine. It's been going there for years. In fact, he's got a little bit of a media agreement with them, in exchange for services. And like, yeah. And I'm just, what really surprised me about her, not only how comfortable she was in caring for men, older men, but she made me feel comfortable. And I got to say now, Eddie, I think I get it. What makes that clinic special? And we got to talking about things, and the difference in you and me. Now, I live way over in another part of town, so it's not as convenient to drop by the clinic, so that I'd been doing my own shots. And she says, at the Low T Center, and by the way, she had worked another location there's in another city. I don't want to mention her name because I didn't get permission to. Okay. And she says, at the Low T Center, we actually have our own pharmacy. And the patients there don't have to get the little vial and go through all the injections, draw it out and all that, and switch needles and that. She says, we actually cut out the middleman, and we prescribe to patients for whom they'd have to travel if they want to just take the pre-measured syringes, like that. I didn't ever hear that from you, so I might have found out something you didn't know, Eddie.
Yeah, you're right.
So for people who might live up in Skiatook or someplace like that where you're like, that's a long drive.
They'll pre-measure, give it to them. And oh, that's good.
It makes, especially, if you're, got a family member who has no problem giving shots, or things like that.
Honey, would you come here and give me a shot in my butt?
Yeah. And
I can't reach around there.
Yeah. Well, the testosterone typically they say put in your thigh. Well, at least my doctor.
That's not where I go.
Okay, well, we'll leave it there. But anyway.
TMI.
Yeah. So, and I'm talking, and I said, by the way, I was out, working at a construction site where the grass is a little long on Tuesday, and I said, I got chiggers all over my ankles. Chigger bites.
Oh, yeah.
And we were talking about things like that, and stuff. Well, then the doctor comes in. She actually stayed. She went out, updated him, and he was finishing. Another patient comes in, and so I got both of them in the room, and stuff. And we're finishing up some things, and he says, if you need a stronger hydrocortisone, I can write you a prescription. But I said, I'll be fine. It's handling it. I wish I would take him up on that because of what happened yesterday afternoon.
Oh, no.
So I go back out to the construction site. And my son Charlie and I, we have to clear out because we've got the slab, we've got the exterior done, and we are actually going to seal glaze concrete, right? So it's going to be just concrete floor in the house, a huge house. So we got to get everything out. And there's a whole bunch there's a pile of scrap lumber. And it was the last thing, and I'm going there reaching, grabbing like this and hauling out. And all of a sudden, like, ah! And I dropped the lumber, and Charlie was just outside the door coming in. He said, what's wrong? I said, I got stung by that scorpion there. Yeah. And Charlie sees it and he turns it into mush, and I'm like, got fire inside my arm. I mean, I am on fire, and I'm like this, And he quick looks up online. Thank God for smartphones, you get, and he said, yeah, people have died from it, but, you either have to be really bad health or be a tiny baby, for that to be an issue. And so, we run down to the pharmacy, and I talked to a pharmacist, the nearest Walgreens. I said, I think I need cortisone, and she says, yeah, we got 1% here. I said, do you have anything stronger? She says, yeah, but you need a prescription, which I just turned down a few hours earlier. And so we get that, and she says, Benadryl is good, but you got to do the tablets, but then you'll probably want to go to bed, and we've got a lot of work to do this afternoon because I've been at the clinic all morning. And so I finish up there, and I'm putting cortisone on about every hour, and then I get home and finally take the Benadryl. But the funny thing, Eddie, is I'm at home, and all of a sudden, my lips are numb. My face, my lips are tingling now. My arm is numb. This morning, right now as we speak, I've got scorpion venom going through my veins, and I am numb as can be. I'm going to be fine. But I've never experienced anything like this. Wow. It was really interesting. And so that was kind of interesting thing. I
wonder if it was a radioactive scorpion. Get some superpowers or something.
Oh, yeah. And, but by the way, while I'm in there going back to the morning, talking to my doctor and the nurse is there. And the one problem I have with my doctor, he is an absolute vaccine worshiper, right? And he took a lot of hits from his patients. It is an independent clinic, and I like independent clinics, that aren't owned by some hospital. So I really support what he's doing in that. But he loves to debate vaccine philosophy. Oh, no. And I said, I know, because we were talking about some other things, and he said, well, have you, let's see, you've had the COVID shot. Have you had just one or, and I said, well, I did the Johnson & Johnson because it's just one. Oh, no, there's boosters. I said, there's going to be no end of boosters. I said, but I'm done with them, and he realized, looked at me like, don't mess with me, And I said, I know. You've been through a lot back with the whole COVID era. And I said, get ready. I said, with the presidential campaign coming on, I said, Bobby Kennedy, and I didn't even finish. Oh, that lit him up. Oh. He is like, he's a charlatan. He's a liar. He is so wrong. It goes on and on and on. And I said, well, listen, he just testified to Congress yesterday. And the funny thing is, we get to talking, and I can sense that physician's assistant, the woman from Low T, had worked there. She's kind of nodding like she agrees with my point. And he would always not answer my point, but he would twist it into some extreme point I didn't say. And then he would, kill the straw man, as they refer to it.
Yeah, that's how they do it.
Yeah, and because I said, look, we were talking about, he said, now, have you had shingles vaccine? I said, I've had chicken pox, thank you. Well, that doesn't mean you won't get shingles. I said,
well, chicken pox is actually what...
It is the same virus.
No, but it's what leads you to it, to the shingles.
I
If
disagree.
you haven't had the chicken pox, you probably won't get it.
You're right. When we were kids, the strategy, because there was no vaccine, was get it when you're a little child, because you'll manifest the scabs on, the poxes on your skin, but it won't attack your internal organs.
Right.
If you wait till you're an adult and get it, then it attacks your internal organs.
Right.
And
the chicken pox.
It's the same virus.
Well, yeah, but the shingles attacks people who have had chicken pox as a child.
Some. But what I'm getting at here is, I said, it's funny. I said...
This is the moment in every show, ladies and gentlemen, where the two of us disagree.
Yeah.
We're waiting for it to come, and it has come.
Yeah.
By the way, let's not forget, I want to go back to the chiggers.
Yeah.
No, we can
okay.
If you want.
Okay, good. I'll make sure we do that. But, I said to the doctor, I says, it's kind of a funny thing. I said, shingles was really, really rare compared to now.
Yeah.
And now that people are doing the vaccine instead of actually getting the chicken pox, like when I was 10, Mom says, go play with Billy. He's got chicken pox. Now's your time. And that was the strategy.
Yeah.
And so anyway, and he's shaking his head like he can't believe this idiotic, I said, look, it was the 60s, and then I'm saying, and I says, it's kind of a funny thing. I said, to get the real virus and overcome it, you can't get a better inoculation than that. No vaccine. And he says, oh, that's not true. He says, the human papilloma virus. And I'm like, do I look like I'm going to get
HPV? Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Which is female genital organs, kind of thing.
But what's interesting, there's so many others, like, for example, herpes simplex 1.
Cold sore.
Cold sore, okay. Mm-hmm. And then they've got one called, there's...
simplex 3, which is down there.
I thought that was 2.
Is that 2? I thought it was 3.
That is 2, I don't know. But there's one called, I always get Zoster's one, which I think is the, what do you call it, shingles.
Okay.
Then there's a Whitlow, which was bad in the 70s and 80s. You would get it from dentists because they weren't cleaning their dental stuff.
Yep.
It's called the finger herpes.
Okay.
And it feels like shingles. Apparently, it burns. You can feel it.
Yeah.
And then it turns into blisters.
Yeah.
But instead of like shingles does your whole body, this one apparently only comes out on your finger.
Yeah.
Or your hand. And then I think there's another one. But I mean, it's all over. I mean, there's all kinds of different. Yeah. It's just weird how these things. What parts of the body, and it does this and it does this, and but it's all that herpes virus, and comes from. But it's all basically related to the same chicken pox.
Okay.
And or not chicken pox, but the herpes.
Yeah.
And I don't know where or when it first started. I bet that's one of the things that way back in biblical times. It was around, and it's one of the things that would get you cast out.
Could be. Yeah, because if they don't know. Well, I'm almost done with this. Here's the last thing I said. I was talking about you can't get a better inoculation than the live virus, and your body overcame it. And this is our problem with medical practice, because so many of them have bought the line of the pharmaceuticals selling the vaccines. That no, you don't rely on natural inoculation. You have to get our unending series of vaccines.
Well, but there's a difference. I think there's one difference in to me in these, and I don't know if it's because one's bacterial, one's viral, but the fact that shingles is recurring. the herpes virus, it's recurring. So, for
Right.
example, somebody with a fever blister,
Right.
it doesn't matter if you've had it, you will get it again. So once it's been in your body, doesn't mean you're immune anymore.
Well, and that's why you go see a doctor. You get them to record this because you want to know if you got too light of a case of chicken pox, then your natural antibodies may not build up enough to prevent you later in life from getting shingles. And so what I was saying to him, I said, you get the full-blown live virus, you get all the symptoms, you have your struggle, and you overcome. That's the best. And he's trying to argue with that. And I said, you can't get a better inoculation than overcoming a full-blown case of that virus. And he said, that's not true. I said, I am quoting verbatim Dr. Fauci from 10 years ago.
Well, we know how trustworthy Fauci is.
But
and you're quoting him?
10 years ago, no, but the fact is he worships Fauci, okay?
Oh, well, yeah.
So that's why I quoted Fauci.
Okay, yeah.
But Fauci 10 years ago taught the complete opposite philosophy. See, the pharmaceuticals own, like, that's why they are spending so much money and all the time.
I don't want to spend our time just going off into this.
But that's a segue now to Bobby Kennedy,
right,
and what he had to say to Congress because of what the punishment he got and they continue to do.
I agree. I think chickenpox is getting it as a child is a great inoculation against future illness. But I still think that I'm not against people getting the shingles shot if you need to.
Right.
My wife got it. I haven't gotten it. But my wife did, and I said, great, go get it. I don't remember what happened, why I was supposed to get it, and I didn't get it. But there's so many of these things, neither one of us are, as you know, I'm not vaccinated. Okay. Neither is my wife. At least one of my children is not either, total anti-vaxxer. And it's the one that's friends with Bobby Kennedy.
Right.
So, and so far we've survived. We may or may not have had one of the alpha to omega viruses that have, I don't know. But at the same time, I've had a cold in the last 2 years, but I don't know whether it was, I lost my sense of smell at one point and taste. But as far as whether I've actually had the disease, I don't know. But so I am very much an anti-vaxxer. And I support those, but I don't go around beating up people who are vaxxed. I really, if you feel you need to get vaxxed, I say go for it. But
But see, Bobby Kennedy is being mislabeled. My doctor referred to him as an anti-vaxxer. He said to Congress 2 days ago, he says, I'm not anti-vaccines, but he's against vaccine mandates.
Right. And see, which lets me segue into another thing.
Yeah.
A lot of your Never Trump DeSantis supporters, they keep trying to bring up the fact that Donald Trump is the one who pressed for a speedy vaccine against our latest scourge, okay? Well, the difference, and they keep trying to bring this up, Trump is the one who brought us the Pfizer and J&J and all of this. But they don't want to remind you the fact that Donald Trump, all he did was give you the right to try.
The option.
That's the only thing he did. He did not mandate anybody take anything. He's always been that way. And before, he did the same with cancer drugs, that if you've been given a diagnosis of a terminal cancer and someone says we have a new experimental drug that we believe may cure your cancer, he gives you the right as a free will adult person to try it. That's all that Donald Trump ever did. He has never mandated anybody to get a vaccine. So anybody out there that tries to tell us that the vaccines are Donald Trump's fault, just tell them to stick it. Okay? He was trying nothing more than to speed up a vaccine. Because at that point, everybody from the news we had, that everyone on that other side was trying to push, oh, you're not doing anything. You're not doing anything. We're not. He was doing everything he could to try to stop this, because if you remember, it didn't start here. It started in Italy.
Yep.
Italy is where the deaths were occurring.
Yeah, the ventilator deaths.
Well, yeah, but there were all of these COVID cases and all these deaths in Italy. And then later, as we find out, which we didn't know, the deaths were among, don't know if you know this, there's these huge populations of Chinese.
They brought it to Italy.
And in those Chinese communities where everybody was dying. And of course, they don't tell you all this. And then here, it started in Seattle. It didn't start on the East Coast. It started in Seattle. It was the first case.
That's what we were watching for,
Right.
was the West Coast.
Right. And then all of a sudden it spread. I think L.A. was the next ones. And then.
But what we got blindsided when New York and New Jersey got hit with the Italy strain.
Right.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you.
But anyway, yeah, which was because we didn't shut everything down early on. And of course, with a virus like this, it was going to spread. I mean, a cold spread.
Of course.
So,
we just wanted to slow it down.
But it's Donald Trump's fault. And so he wants to shut things down. And but again, what really ticks me off is that people want to remember the bad and never remember the good or the right. Just like, I used to tease Pat Campbell about this, my good friend, just like you and I arguing, when he tried to play the sound bite of Donald Trump saying I could stand on Fifth Avenue and shoot people and they'd love me, where he cut out the first half of it where he said, the media says I could do this.
Yeah.
It wasn't that he was saying he could do it. He was quoting what the media is saying. And you know me, I hate that when people play these games with people. So
they become liars.
Well, yeah, deceivers, to twist the facts. So anyway, but as far as viruses, there's so much we don't know. Viruses are so much small, and that's the other thing. They're so much smaller than bacteria that there was no way a mask could ever save you. They knew that. They still know that. There's no mask made that can stop a virus because it's microscopic to the microscopic.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
Yep.
But let me get back to the chiggers.
Oh.
Which is how this
but that's what's good about him. He can go down these rabbit trails, but he remembers how to get back.
Well, sometimes, yeah. Well, first I have to say it's one thing. So when I was at KFAQ, we used to get this guy. He told me he was a professor at TU, which I know the guy's lying, but I used to just love listening. Eddie, this is so-and-so, a professor over here at TU, and I enjoy your program. I'm listening. So I don't know if you know the history of the word Negro. And he was saying, the word Negro comes from originally chiggers.
Oh.
See, he already knows where this is headed. He said, the chigger is originally, they're actually known as chigros. It's a chigro. And I'm sitting on the other end of the phone trying to keep a straight face and not just start cracking up on the other end of the line.
Yeah.
He said, they're chigros. It's a chigro, and then the chigro, the Southerners, they turned it into chiggers, and then of course originally we had the word Negro.
This is ignorance gone to seed, folks.
But the guy just as straight and just sounding as scholarly and authoritative as possible, and talking about how chigro turned into chiggers and how Negro turned into bleep, So anyway,
but
go ahead.
Any Hispanic kid 3 years old knows that the word Negro is the
black.
Spanish word for black.
Sure, that's what it negro, yeah,
yes.
of course. But anyway, it just reminded me of that. I will never forget that. He was trying to convince me that chigro is where they got the word Negro from, and then Chigger. I mean, the guy, and he just as straight and like calmly as possible. But anyway, no, the cure, I found the easiest way to deal with chiggers, people, for your children, what you do, take nail polish. Mm-hmm. Have you heard this?
Actually, the woman from the Low T Center said clear nail polish.
Yeah, just take clear nail polish and find where you got your little bumps. Just put nail polish over every one of those things. And within about 3 hours, it'll be, it kills them. They suffocate and die. Yeah. And then they eventually, your skin will push them out. But when I first said, what? But I ran right home. And I'm down there putting nail polish on my ankles and everything. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, it takes away the itch and everything. Because what's happening, they're down there eating. They're eating under your skin. But once you do that, they suffocate, they die, and it stops that. Yeah. So, anyway, moving right on. This is an interesting show we have today.
Well, I was trying to segue to the congressional hearings. We talked about part of it.
Okay.
And we had, that was day 2. That was about censorship. But Kennedy was testimony number 1.
Testimony?
Well, testifying.
Yes, testimony.
I say his testimony.
By the way, let me just throw this in. It was a beautiful morning this morning. Mm-hmm. I went out early with my dog, and I just sat on my deck there and just sat there and soaked it in. It was just quiet, but clear, blue skies, just nice. Okay.
When you're a rich guy like him who lives on the 7th fairway.
Is it the 7th?
I think it's the 7th. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know. I just live there.
Yeah.
I'm not a golf fan.
It is a beautiful neighborhood where you live. Your backyard is to die for. It's awesome.
It was God.
Yeah.
Seriously, I'll have to tell you one day. But, but then I have to kill you.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. But so it was a beautiful day today. I just want to say they had, I think, somebody from Breitbart who was actually handling the Hunter Biden laptop story and about how they destroyed her and silenced her, on social media. Yeah. Kennedy talked about how he got deplatformed. And, the
IRS.
Yes.
That's also testimony this week.
But the funny thing was, before Kennedy could even speak, the Democrats they moved to executive session to keep the public from hearing what he had to say. So it was the most beautiful thing is this, the problem of government involved in censorship. And what happens is all these lefties want to censor the guy who's talking about the government censoring.
I know. Did you see that clip where what's his name? Who's from Indiana? He was the gymnastics coach they try to get for what? Jim.
Oh, Jordan.
Jordan.
Oh, he was a wrestling coach.
She was sitting next to him, that black lady. And she's a piece of work.
Well, yeah, her and Debbie Wasserman Schultz both were.
Yeah, but that lady is a piece of work.
Oh, God.
Because I remember the time where she was grilling Matt Taibbi, and as soon as he starts talking to her, she turns around and starts talking to the person behind her like she's not paying attention.
Yeah.
If I were Matt Taibbi, I would have just shut. I wouldn't have said anything. Mm-hmm. It made her turn around and say, "Wait, why aren't you answering me?"
Yeah.
Said, because you're not listening.
Yeah.
When you're ready to listen, I'll talk. I mean, no respect.
Yeah.
If my time's valuable enough to come, it's valuable enough for you to listen. But anyways, so she was there, and then of course Jim Jordan basically brings up the fact that they're talking about censorship, but then they wanted to censor him by cutting him down because she was wanting to cut his time, Kennedy's time. First, they wanted to move it to a private session where it was non-televised and no public hearing.
And not even reporters in the room.
Right, exactly. They wanted a totally private session. And then they wanted to cut his 10 minutes to 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. and it was, the whole deal was about censorship.
Yeah.
And Jordan was just having fun. I mean, he was just It was great. It was really, really good to watch. And you could tell when he was nailing her on it, she's sitting there. He was just kind of laughing while he was talking about it.
Let me make just
stupid.
a little side point. Bobby Kennedy has a vocal disability, right? Mm-hmm. It was, something that's causing his vocal spasms.
Right.
And that's a legitimate disability.
Disability, right.
And that causes a person who would normally take 5 minutes to say something, it's going to take them 10. And I'm just thinking, somebody on the Republican side of the dais should have said, this man has a vocal disability, and you're not willing, you Democrats, to accommodate a simple accommodation for his disability?
Right.
I wouldn't leave it up to Bobby Kennedy to do that. But somebody on the Republican side should have said so. This is an AMA requirement.
Unfortunately, I don't think there's anybody on the Republican side either smart enough or with the gonads big enough to do that.
No, you're right, because they script everything. And sometimes you just got to fly by the seat of your pants.
Yeah. Now, Jim Jordan, if anybody's going to do it, I think Jim Jordan is the one to do it. He to me, is really one of the champions of the GOP.
He really is. He's been a great friend to Tulsa. He's been here multiple times with Jim Bridenstine's campaign. He actually did a series of meetings with Kevin Hearn here. In fact, I got to ask both those guys some questions healthcare related and that. But he's just in person. He's exactly what you're seeing there. Sharp wit, but very hospitable, great communicator. But he's the real deal.
Yeah.
He really is.
No, I believe it. They came after him. The Democrats will stoop. There's no depth to which they will not stoop to try to get their job done.
Yeah.
And the Republicans, for some reason, there seems to be no depth that they are willing to allow them to go to.
Mm-hmm.
It just baffles me that we let them do these things to us.
Yeah.
How and why, I don't know.
Yeah.
I did want to say, by the way, just throw this out there and then we can get into more deep stuff again. Fox News, I don't know if you heard about this, but they've gone really, this is pretty bad now. I don't know if you heard this.
About the donation matching?
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
All right. When you work for a corporation, usually you have these United Fund drives and these different donation things that you can give, and your company will match the donations. Now, you've probably heard about this by now. If not, yeah.
It kind of broke last night, I think.
Last night, I think. But anyway, it turns out Fox News, one of the things that they have been giving to is the Satanic Church. Mm-hmm. So up to $1,000. So if I am willing to donate $1,000 to the Satanic Church, Fox News will match my donation of $1,000 to the Satanic Church. So, unbelievable. They've got Planned Parenthood, the Trevor Project, which I don't need. Do you know what that is?
I've heard of that. I forget what.
Yeah, apparently it's something George Soros is.
Okay.
I don't know if Trevor's not, but that's one of the other ones.
Right.
There's all of these super liberal entities that you can give to.
Yeah.
And Fox will match up to $1,000 donations.
Yeah, and I should clarify something. Evidently, it was Glenn Beck who actually broke this story, and because he used to work at Fox News, and he was interviewed yesterday by Eric Bolling.
Yeah, Eric Bolling.
And he said, now, we don't have any actual evidence of money actually going from Fox to the Satanic Temple. What we're reporting is they were approved for matching ahead of time, telling their employees, if you give to anyone on this list, we will match it. And they included that. So, and he said, they don't even have the Billy Graham Association on that list. who.
Right, that's right.
You remember when, what's her name?
Greta,
yeah, Van Susteren. She's very close to the Graham family. He travels a lot with Franklin and his wife, So, yeah, it's just odd.
The Trevor Project provides 24/7 crisis support services to LGBT young people.
Okay.
So that's what the Trevor Project is. So,
well, listen, I don't care who they are, what they're dealing. If they've got a crisis, I'm not opposed to helping them. But if they're only going to help you if you're LGBT,
well, yeah, but
queer,
also, Well, yeah, but my question is define crisis.
Right.
See, that's the other thing. It's like on the abortion issue, the medical necessity of abortion.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to have a scar from a cesarean. I don't want that. So you got to kill this creature inside of me. This unwanted creature that's growing inside of me. That kind of, that's basically what they've gotten to.
Yeah.
That I don't want to be burdened with this scar for the rest of my life. So take this thing alien out of me. It's almost what it's
to quote like Pat to quote Pat Campbell, he who defines the terms controls the debate.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. All right. So, that's the story on that. And at the same time, they're all very careful to say there's some great people still at Fox. In fact, Eric Boldinger mentioned, he says, one of my best friends is Sean Hannity, and Ainsley Earhart, and, a bunch of some great people. And let's just be careful that we don't just paint everybody with a broad brush.
Yeah, but here's my problem. Okay. When do great people quit being great?
I don't know, when they leave public school and go to private school. For those of you who know our long-standing debate, I did a gotcha. He's speechless.
No. That's not.
I'm sorry. I'm
trying to keep this. My coffee is running out. No, but no. Seriously though, at some point you have to put your foot down.
Yeah, I understand.
Or draw your line in the sand. Say, I can't put up with this anymore. And now, so for example, this is what's odd to me too, that I haven't got my head around. Mm-hmm. You've got Fox News Channel and you've got Fox Business. Mm-hmm. If you watch Fox Business, which I watch almost religiously now, every day, in the morning, it's like watching Newsmax. Mm-hmm. In some ways, it's even more conservative than Newsmax.
Okay.
And then you got Fox News Channel, which is like watching the alphabet channels.
Especially
CNN.
The news side of it, yeah.
Yeah. And if you watch that ticker at the bottom, it's just ridiculous.
Yes.
It's been that way for years now, whoever's running that ticker. So you wonder what is really going on. How can you have owned by the same corporation who's actually in charge of these things?
Right.
So I wonder if it's the director, the news director, or the it has to be, to me, it has to be the news director.
Right. That's why in about 10 years ago, Shepard Smith moved over and concentrated his control of the news generating side of it. And then we saw just how leftist Shepard Smith, revealed himself to be. Because he had crouched it very much. There were a few times for a few times you could see it.
And nobody cared if he was gay. Nobody could care.
But guys there like Shepard Smith, Chris Wallace, and that they tend to focus on controlling the news production side. Yeah.
But if you watch Fox Business, it's really interesting. You watch Maria Bartiromo in the morning and her guests. Mm-hmm. You get more news. I get more news watching Fox Business Channel than I do Fox and Friends in the morning.
Yeah.
Because they'll have those same reports, the clips that they're showing on Fox News Channel. They'll have the same clips, but they'll put them interspersed with how it's affecting the stock market. Mm-hmm. it puts everything in context. And then you'll have Maria or one of those other commentators come on, and they'll just start, just nailing them. The Democrats won't show up anymore on Fox Business Channel. And it's funny because when we were in El Paso for my mom's burial, I'm in a hotel, and they didn't have Fox Business. So I had to watch CNBC. Oh, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. I could not believe it was, what's the Jim, whatever his name is. The guy that has all those gizmos where he's punching the buttons and.
Sorry, I don't watch it.
It keeps running through my mind. Jim something or other. Anyway, somebody will probably put it up on your thing. Maybe.
Yeah, come on, Alto, help us out.
Yeah, but
actually, by the way, we're back live. Alto had told us our screen froze up. We got a Wi-Fi issue in the building. Sorry, folks, those of you who have seen us locked up for most of the first hour.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, are we back?
We are.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a Wi-Fi issue in the building.
Okay, all right. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But anyway, Jim Cramer.
Yeah.
Jim Cramer.
Oh.
I don't know how he's on.
The guy who knows how to pick them.
Oh, he's on all day.
Yeah.
But he's on in the mornings, and I'm watching, and they're talking to him, and he's just silly, stupid stuff they're talking. And there's no real news. They don't have guests. They don't have, like, you watch Fox Business, and they'll have CEOs and analysts and from everywhere.
Right.
If it's new, something new technology they have this person with this and this and this. Like AI is the new thing. They will hunt down, find somebody with like this little piece of AI way over here or here or here, and how it's going to affect this and this and this, and somebody pro, con, but then they always go back to what's happening in the nation and with the president, Congress, and all of the committees and all of the agencies and everything like that. So it's really interesting to watch that, and then you go into the afternoon, and it's the same starting at about 4 o'clock, from 4 to 7. It's the same thing. You get just nothing but good political news, but in the context of how it's affecting our whole nation and economy.
Yeah, our economy and your economy.
And your economy, exactly.
Trish Regan once was recently on Newsmax, and it had to do something where Jim Cramer just had the most idiotic, actually it was the banking thing, where the banks are falling, and just 3 or 4 days earlier, he was telling people this is a great time to get in, and she didn't say this, but I will. If you're following Jim Cramer's financial advice, find out where the soup kitchens in your county are. Okay.
Yeah, it's just silly. I don't know how they still keep him on there, but I think they keep him on because he won't give you any serious analysis of what in context of what's going on.
From a standpoint of just the shop talk, how a person communicates, their voice inflection, he does that presentation well, not the substance. I'm talking about how you communicate.
Well, he reminds me of a carnival barker.
Yeah.
Step right up. Come on. This is you got AMC. AMC's down 20, but don't worry about it. It's going to come back. Yeah. And then you got General Motors. Yeah, they're flat today and da-da-da. Oh, but don't go over there. This is it and it is it. That's kind of how he is. And he just starts giving you all this stuff.
And you wonder who's giving him money under the table and maybe giving CNBC money under the table.
That's probably to keep him, But, how he's there, like, he was there all morning. It's like he never goes away.
Yeah, but
he's like a plague.
Here's what I'll tell you. If you want to find out the news slant on any of these networks, make a list of who's advertising, because they are not going to bite the hand that feeds them. And you can follow that right here in Oklahoma. You will not see news about gambling addiction problems on any of the TV stations in Oklahoma. At least not in Indian country.
Great segue.
Yeah.
Into our next discussion.
Yeah.
Let's go to the whole deal with the governor and the attorney general.
Yes, and we did cover this last week, but yeah, it's really getting interesting because the governor is being sued by the tribes in civil court, and while generally the attorney general's duties do include representing state officials when they are the target of lawsuits, and but Stitt does not want Gettner Drummond because Gettner Drummond's been taking money from the tribes to get elected.
Ta-da!
Yeah,
and so I think he's got a great case.
I think
he's right.
Yeah.
The more I'm hearing about Attorney General Drummond, the more it worries me.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the guy was just straight guy, especially before the last election when he lost. And then this time, I was neither here nor there. But the more things are going forward, I'm starting to get really worried about our state, the hands that our state is in under his.
I think he's a mixed bag. There's some things I don't like where he's at, and there's some things I do like where he's at. It's just going to be that way.
Yeah.
And I don't mind keeping that kind of objective balls and strikes. I'll say where he's wrong, say where he's right.
Right.
But I think it would be an interesting case because here you are, two separate executive branch entities deciding, am I going to represent you or not? Are you stuck with me or not? And ultimately, whatever courtroom, whatever judge is presiding in that courtroom, he has to let the defendant select his own counsel.
Sure, he should.
Okay.
In fact, actually, though, Drummond should recuse himself. He should just voluntarily recuse himself.
That should happen.
And if he doesn't, that speaks for itself, I think.
Bingo. There you go, folks. Gettner Drummond. If you're not wanted and you're trying to impose yourself on a client that doesn't want you, that tells me volumes about why you ran in the first place and why you took that money in the first place. Okay? I'm going to put that out there for him. Gettner, do the big thing and just say, I'm going to recuse if the Constitution allows it, because my client feels better served by reaching out. But there is a legislative component in this because the funds to represent the governor has to be appropriated by the legislature. That is why Stitt presented his case to the legislature. That's why it came out.
Well, and the legislature then should do the right thing. And also, now, we run into another problem, and that is how much is the legislature owned by the tribes? Mm-hmm. See, this is where it's so funny because rest his soul, my dear friend Dave Brumbaugh.
Mm-hmm.
I can speak freely on this because he's no longer in the legislature.
You coward. Man who can't defend himself.
Yeah, he's in heaven.
I have to apologize. Eddie, let me apologize, right? I'm being rough on you. It's the scorpion venom in me today.
Oh, it's the scorpion venom. Okay. I thought it was just your own venom. I just did the Van Risingham venom. But Dave told me when he first was elected, the first session, he said a lobbyist for the tribes came in and basically told him that they wanted him to play ball and they would give him, let's put a boatload of money to stay in office, to get him reelected next time. If he did not, they would find a candidate to run against him and give that candidate that boatload of money. Mm-hmm. I won't say the dollar figure, but anyway, and Dave resisted. But I'm wondering how many people are sitting in Oklahoma City that can't resist.
Yeah.
Or didn't want to resist, don't want to resist. See, This is the problem. It reminds me of de Tocqueville. Alexis de Tocqueville, many of you.
French philosopher.
Right, may not have heard of him. I first became aware of him through Rush Limbaugh. Yep. He's the one who brought him to light. And he came and visited America back in the 1700s. And he read late 1700s, after the Declaration of Independence and had been written. And he said that he basically said that our nation can't stand because it will destroy itself based upon its own constitution and its own declaration, because the freedom that we have given ourselves is going to lead itself to destroying us. And eventually, when our legislature finds out that their power comes through the rulership that they have and the power they have and through the money, they will begin using that against us instead of for us.
Yeah.
And they'll figure out how to, and sadly, I mean, the only good news, it's taken them almost 300 years, 250 years now, to do this.
Yep.
But it's still tragic that we are at that place, that we have, these people that are in power now have gotten to the point where greed has taken over.
Yep.
And we are no longer led. It's still a government by the people, of the people, but it's no longer for the people.
Yeah.
It's for themselves.
Yeah, he basically made his position as our destiny was based on how good a people we are.
Right.
If we cease to be good, we will cease to be great.
Right. Yeah, and he essentially said that those in power will eventually vote themselves absolute power. I mean, that's basically, in a nutshell, what he is, and that's pretty much what the Democrat Party is up to now.
Yep.
They have gotten to the point where they are wanting to set themselves up as the absolute power, that you will not question their power. Mm-hmm. They want to call it democracy. They keep using the word democracy, but it has nothing to do with democracy. It's all about them and their power, how much power they have.
Yeah. Whenever you hear a Democrat say our democracy, redefine as our regime.
Right.
That's really what they're referring to as their
heavy
regime.
Capital our, which means them. What we decide, not what you see. Democracy that was initially intended was the people in the republic, states, cities, regions, counties, okay? Mm-hmm. That's who's supposed to run themselves. And the power is to be limited in Washington, just to keep them together. That's all. That's the only end, to mobilize the military to protect us as a unit. Mm-hmm. But the more power they got, they kept taking more and more and more and more power. And now they want it all. Mm-hmm. And I hate to say this, the Democrats have always been like this. And what they figured, and I'm going to catch some flack for this. Mm-hmm. They've used black people.
Oh, yeah.
Black Americans, they've used for this. The book Uncle Tom's Cabin, there are two characters in there, Sambo and Quimbo. These are overseers, the black overseers on Simon Legree's plantation. These black Congress people you have, which are ignoramuses at best. Mm-hmm. I mean, absolute idiots. I would get one of those little messages from Twitter right now. Mm-hmm. Do you want to send this message? Yeah. Because this word may be offensive. Mm-hmm. Yes, I want to send the message. Mm-hmm. These people are idiots, if not imbeciles. They put them into power, given them a little power, to enslave their own people, to get their people to keep the power and give the power to the Democrat Party so they can enslave the nation as a whole. Mm-hmm. I don't need to say any more.
No.
That's it in a nutshell.
And you know what? On this point, you and Malcolm X very much agree.
Yeah.
Malcolm X warned us repeatedly, beware of the liberal Democrat. You know, because here's the thing. Going back to this French philosopher.
De Tocqueville.
Yeah, de Tocqueville. In France, there was some healthy debates going on between Filmer and Locke. John Locke being the grandfather of modern libertarian thought, of the right of individual. There's, all men are created equal. That is straight up John Locke, coming from Jefferson. Huge, huge disciple of John Locke. Fillmore believed in the old class system, the divine right of kings, that the people need somebody higher than them. And, Pat Buchanan writes in his biography about growing up in Washington, D.C. back in the 40s and 50s. He said it was a small town, small city. And it was working class. Now, Washington, D.C. Metro is the wealthiest metropolitan area in the nation. And that ought to warn us about something. They think they're the ruling class.
Oh, yeah. I wrote a thing on that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the new feudalism. Mm-hmm. We are in a feudal state.
Right. And this is why you're hearing for calls to move as much as we can of federal government out of D.C.
You saw the latest attempt, a part of it.
What's that?
They're wanting to build the new FBI headquarters in Alabama.
Oh, that'd be.
Oh, you didn't know that?
No.
Yeah, Tommy Tuberville.
Oh,
who I did not like as Texas Tech's football coach because I just didn't like it. Mm-hmm. He wasn't very good at it.
Yeah,
but I do like him as a senator.
Yeah,
but that's the thing. They're moving it, and it's his deal. He wants they're basically holding him to account. They want to move the FBI headquarters to Alabama. Now, my only fear is that they may change Alabama, and rather than Alabama
but if you
change them.
Spread it out. Like, for instance, the halls of Congress. Maybe we put the Senate in Fairbanks, Alaska. That'll be a short session. And maybe the House in Death Valley, Nevada.
Death Valley.
That'll be a short session. Because what Rush Limbaugh says is, hey, if Congress ain't in session, at least we aren't losing more freedoms.
But here's the problem. Okay, because I know we have U.S. attorney here in Tulsa, located.
Yeah.
Here. And these U.S. attorneys here in Tulsa are just liberal Washington, D.C. attorneys.
Yeah.
So it's almost like there was an old saying, you can take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boy. It's almost, you can take the bureaucrat out of D.C., but you can't take the bureaucracy out of the boy, right? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where we're at. It's almost like cult deprogramming. Mm-hmm. These people are so, and of course, a part of that is the indoctrination now that we have from grammar school, high school, university, grad school, and then on into whatever field they go into. The bureaucracy is so rife with socialist indoctrination that they actually think this is normal, that this is how it's supposed to be. No, seriously.
I know.
We've got entire, I'd say 2 generations now of people that the question I always ask is, what happened to the communists at the fall of the wall? Were they raptured?
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
We got rid of, what was it, Ceausescu? What was the...
Ceausescu.
The Romanian?
Yeah.
Honecker was killed.
Yeah.
That was East Germany. All of the Russian ones were gone. You name Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Yugoslavia, Poland, all of the guys, the former leaders of the communist countries, Albania, they're all gone.
Yeah.
The leaders.
Yeah.
But what happened to the party members?
Right.
All the people under them. Did they all of a sudden convert? Did they? The university, the academics.
Yep.
Where did they go? I'll tell you where they went. Mm-hmm. They went to our esteemed universities, a lot of them. I guarantee you.
Yeah. This
is where, and I believe it was part of a plan to infiltrate the West, not just America, but I'd say Germany, England, France, you name it, and convert our academia, our media, and everything with communist thought. Mm-hmm. And gradually change, and here we are. We're reaping the fruit of that.
Yeah, we've got a worse version of it, though, because you got decadent Western cultures along with that. Because the Soviet Union, the old Soviet Union, those states, they don't accept the decadent Western culture.
Yeah, that's what's so funny. It's almost a role reversal, that today you would actually rather live in Russia to a certain extent than live in the Western world because things seem more peaceful.
Yeah.
I mean, in a sense, it almost seems like they're living a more normal life than we are here.
Right.
Take Chechnya, Slovakia, Slovenia. Take all those countries. You rarely hear a peep out of them. You see, people go visit. Oh, this is just beautiful. Look at it. I mean, there's idyllic scenery.
Right. Well, see, so much of the propaganda to undermine Western civilizations was developed in the Soviet Union. Even the radical environmentalism. Like, for instance, I just heard in Congress, they admitted, and nobody debated with it, that the whole fracking scare was all made up by the Soviet Union. By Russia. We have been the target of their propaganda campaigns, and you know how it's been so successful? Because most of the staff are big fans of socialism. So they're just forwarding on. I mean, the American Librarians Association has always been a socialist organization. Always. I know that because a Soviet dissident who escaped talked about if they came into a town, the first friend that a Soviet spy would make was with the librarian. Because they had access to everything.
Right.
And if they were good to you, they could get you any information you need. Yeah. It's like an unpaid staffer.
Yeah. And the communists have been trying to attack through the black community and other minorities since the late 1800s. Because what they realized was to do this, you always want to find what they can oppressed minorities. These are the people that you use to foment a rebellion, a revolution. But it didn't work until the 80s is when it finally happened, when it finally clicked for them. It didn't work through the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. Black people were still among the most patriotic. When it came to, which is really weird because the First World War, Second World War, Korean War, Black Americans were very patriotic and still lined up to volunteer to fight.
Yeah.
I mean, just countless. Even though it was segregated, you had all these black units. My dad signed up when he was 17 years old to go to Europe, to Germany, an all-black unit. Yet I'm going to Japan, Korea, Vietnam. All of a sudden, after Vietnam, that's when the whole black radical thing started, and this communist stuff started infiltrating, and that's when, now, the one who didn't go for it was, again, Malcolm X.
That's right.
He saw what was happening. He didn't like communists any more than he liked the Ku Klux Klan.
Whatever happened to him as a result?
He was assassinated.
Really?
Yes.
Whatever happened to Bobby Kennedy, to John Kennedy?
Assassinated.
Yeah. And you talk to Robert Kennedy Jr., and he'll say they were taken out.
Yeah.
He's confident of it. I got to say, there was a movie back in the 80s. If I remember right, I saw just a clip of it, and then I realized, okay, I got to turn the channel. I think it was called Hotel Budapest or something like that. It was one of the characters was a young man who is a communist, and he's trying to advance communist political upheaval. And he's trying to convince this young college-age gal to get involved in sexual deviancy. He wanted her to do pornographic photos and video movies, and all that. And, she's like, why are you doing this? Well, it furthers our cause. And then she says to him, okay, so what happens if communism takes over? The guy just deadpan says, pornography will be a thing of the past. So really, all in here, that's very telling.
Yeah.
That it was just a tool to undermine our society.
Sure. Pornography, drugs.
Right.
All of those things.
You look at what is allowed in China today, mainland China. Okay? That ought to tell you something. Now, they're happy with Western decadent culture destroying the West, but they won't let it destroy them.
Except at the highest levels.
Mm-hmm.
What's in
the bourgeoisie,
the party leaders.
Yeah,
they all have their own prostitutes. And,
yes,
yeah, it's a recurring deal. I mean, it's always like that. But they understand that to keep the society stable, they can't allow it down here.
Right, and that's why you see with the Bolshevik revolution. The whole argument was this ruling class, the czar, and all those, and how decadent their society is, and everything, and the rest of us are suffering. And then communism takes over, and unless you're a Communist Party leader and well attached and in a high established appointment, it became the same society that you just overthrew.
Exactly, Odessa, not Texas. Just calm down. Odessa, Ukraine.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it used to be Russia, but Odessa, that was known to be the playground of the party.
The Crimea? Crimea was as well.
Right. Well, that's where Odessa is.
Okay.
It's down that coast down there.
Okay.
It's the last thing before you get down almost to Turkey. It's on the.
But wasn't that also near where the conference in Yalta was during World War II? Roosevelt was on a ship there. Yeah.
But Yalta, I think, is an island, isn't it? It's an island out in the Black Sea.
For security, I think they would stay there. Yeah.
Right. But so Odessa, though, so it's a beautiful, beautiful area, but it's this resort exclusive place, but for the high up party members, and it was known as that, and it had all these high end prostitutes that would come and hang out with,
Okay, just.
The big boys.
Just prior to the fall of the Soviet Union, there was a coup attempt. And Gorbachev just happened to be down in the Crimea. And he became a prisoner of this. They waited until that time, but they don't tell us what was he doing. What was his compromised position?
It's funny. My kids, both kids, they were in Moscow the day of the coup.
Wow.
Yeah, Youth with a Mission had, I think, our King's Kids. It's where they had kids doing musical singing and stuff on the streets. They were doing it in Moscow, and they did this tour. And so they're all, and it's funny because YWAM kids are different than any other kids. There's no fear.
Yeah.
So to them, they thought it was all fun. And everybody else freaking out, and everybody calling us, and and we weren't even worried about them. We just knew that this would happen.
But that's the famous scene where you got Yeltsin standing up on a tank, and guys are holding up armor things to protect him from being, assassinated on the street.
Yeah.
In front of the Russian legislative building, not the Soviet, not the federal building, but the Republic building.
Yeah.
And he was really the face of defiance that ended the coup.
Yeah. Yeah, we asked our kids, so what was it like? And said, oh, it wasn't anything big.
Yeah, and largely because the Russian army decided to sit this out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there was no big. In fact, it only really affected a small area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it wasn't like the whole city on lockdown and major anything.
Right.
It was just pretty much.
But it could have been.
Well, yeah, it could have been. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's funny. We started getting used to stuff. Didn't freak us out.
Thank God for the faith of those young YWAM kids.
Yeah, but yeah, even the parents. I mean, it's funny how you just get used to stuff and you just. You just, I don't know, maybe it was wrong thinking. So, just assuming too much that, our kids are going to be okay.
Yeah, that's something else.
Yeah, but it's funny, something we'll always remember. But
I got 2 more news stories, if I can.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so there's a big announcement Thursday. There's a new theme park going in, and we find out it's near Veneta.
Yes.
And now I remember way back in the 80s coming down here, there was this big buffalo ranch that was a tourist location at Afton, which is just a little further northeast of Veneta. And I don't know if this is that property, but here's the thing. You have to know, folks, none of this gets out.
This is not like that ranch in Nevada.
Not the Bunny Ranch.
Oh,
no.
but I didn't even know the name. I couldn't even remember the
That's
name.
a different kind of theme park.
Buffalo Bunny. Okay, I'm just trying to. Okay.
Okay, but so where's your mind, Eddie?
No, I'm just trying to. I didn't even remember the name of the other one. But you
at
knew
least
the name. You knew the
yeah.
name of it. I didn't.
Yeah.
Buffalo Ranch. Okay.
But what I'm saying.
Wait a minute.
Is,
what was the Buffalo Ranch? Where was that?
In Afton. They had massive herds of buffalo, and it was a big tourist attraction. I remember because as you came in on I-44, it was like that Burma Shave kind of series of signs, just almost like Visit Rock City, that used to see those kinds of signs.
Well, let me ask you. I've been here 30 years. Where did the buffalo go?
Yeah, see, it shut down like 20-some years ago.
But where did they put the buffalo?
Well, I don't know. I really don't know what happened. I think
inquiring minds want to know.
It was a family ranch turned into a tourist location, which was classic of the 60s and into the 70s, right?
They just hope they moved them somewhere.
Right, because keep in mind, this is where the old Route 66 and I-44 are kind of right there.
Right.
So it was in the classic style of the Route 66 tourist attraction, roadside attractions, which were always so big. It's like the Blue Whale up there in, Ikatusa. So, but here's what I'm getting at. I remember going to Disney World in spring of 75. That theme park in Orlando had only been open about 2-3 years. I remember taking, it was a bunch of us newspaper carriers who won this trip by selling subscriptions, And Orlando at that time was probably about the size of Bartlesville.
Really?
Yes. Small town. Walt Disney realized one mistake. And listen, you used to attend school across the street from Disneyland in Anaheim. You were at Melodyland, right? The problem that Walt had with Disneyland, he was landlocked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, oh yeah.
And his business really made a lot of other people filthy rich because they just scammed off of his global, attraction.
Oh yeah, hotels, restaurants,
right?
Everything, yeah.
And what he realized he was onto a good subject. He had everything right. What he didn't have was land. And so he built shell corporations and had lots of money in them. And they went up and bought land, but in small parcels where they wouldn't draw attention. And he waited until he had all of this land. And then all of a sudden, it all merged into one big holding. And then he announced Disney World is coming. And that was so that he'd have land to grow with. Because when I went down to Disney World in 75, it was a small fraction of what it is today. There was not the Universal. There was not Epcot. There wasn't any of that then.
And now it's the big one. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the real thing, because you rarely, if you look at TV, there's never any ads on Disneyland. Mm-hmm. The ads are all for Disney World. Mm-hmm. In other words, it's not a place that they advertise they want everybody to come to, because I guess because there's enough people in California in that area alone to take care of Disneyland.
Yeah, and in Disneyland, as we've heard, just studying what Ron DeSantis has had to deal with, Florida made a sweet deal that allowed this corporation to incorporate as a municipality where they were self-policed, where they had police powers to protect their interests. Right. I mean, think about it. When the shop owner owns the police and the shop owner accuses you of shoplifting, are you really going to get a fair trial? It's the same person accusing you that is conducting your trial. This is some of the things that DeSantis finally ended. But what I'm getting back to, and here's why I'm drawing this in, is, folks, we wouldn't know about this unless and until the land is locked up. And so when I saw this and I posted up on social media, our good friend Darren Gantz, posted right away. He knew exactly what this was. He knew exactly what it was, and he said, and yes, it will be a success.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I believe that's what Darren, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But the fact is, we've seen schemes like this come in and milk us for money and then never actually perform.
Right.
But what they're saying, and I'll post this in the link to it, and you can go to their website, this big amusement park, a big RV park, big resort to stay at, big 4-star hotel. I mean, they're going to have all of it there. And the big amusement parks, it's going to have different themes. One's kind of a more woodland, mountainous theme. And it's celebrating America. And I think that's good. And I think that's what sells in Mid-America. I really think Silver Dollar City, and then think bigger and better. That's really what I think could be.
Yeah, I just, what I'm looking at, I'm not ignoring you, but I just got through discussing this, arguing about this online.
Oh yeah, we got some media folks with some opinions, don't we?
Yeah. One of our good friends, former Tulsa World writer, and he joined the Frontier.
Yep.
The Frontier is not happy about this.
Let's go forth with this comment.
Oh, yeah. He wants to be Marshall Dillon.
Yes.
Marshall Dillon wants to go forth. Doesn't want to go forth. Nah.
Yeah.
But basically, I'll tell you what I believe the issue is. Mm-hmm. Because this is a conservative, or in their term, right-wing type of venture. Mm-hmm. They're opposed to this. So here in Tulsa, a couple of years ago, we just opened
the Gathering
Place, which was funded primarily,
leftist millionaires.
Well, yeah, exactly. It was, to me, it always gets me how the people who get the credit don't really put the money up. Mm-hmm. So, it's credited to George Kaiser, or the great philanthropist. But okay. Yeah, I know. But when you really look at the percentage of money that the great philanthropist puts into it, it's not that much. It's everybody else's money,
right? But
they credit him with being a great philanthropist.
And who has control?
Right, exactly.
He keeps control. He leverages a small part of the money for all of the control.
Right, exactly. And everything around it, right. But anyway, so, and they made this big deal about this gathering place, that it's a must-see thing. People are going to come from all over the place to see this. I'll be real honest with you. I went one time. I couldn't wait to get out of there.
You've been there more than I have.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I don't know what people make a big deal out of. Some people really like it. Now, to be fair, I wasn't there for phase 2, which is Riverside, on the other side by the river. What they were doing, developing it as well, and they had paddle boats or something else, restaurants and things. So that may be cool. But the actual park itself, you just walk through, and they've got like swings and playgrounds for children.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting playground.
Yeah, it's a giant playground that costs like hundreds of millions of dollars.
$350 million.
Right. But as far as the place that people are going to drive from out of state to come be a part of, I don't think so. I mean, I wouldn't. But now this place, if it is anything like what we're seeing here, yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the artist concept here, and it looks like kind of like a frontier city, or what is it up in Missouri?
Silver Dollar City.
Silver Dollar City, one of those. It's an amusement park. It's more, and of course, it's up near Grand Lake.
Yes, that is another thing. We're talking 20 minutes from Shangri-La.
Exactly. You got Shangri-La, you got Grand Lake. It's not far from Missouri. I mean, it's a great location. And honestly, Oklahoma needs another area besides Tulsa and Oklahoma City.
That was the main point you made to me earlier when I broke this story.
Yeah, you can't have a state that basically only has 2 large cities. And I mean, I think the Grove area, which is up in the same area, it's growing.
Right.
A bunch of but it's all retirees and so forth. But I'll tell you what, if this happens up there, that place is going to explode. The retail, the residential properties up there, it's going to, real estate property, it's just going to explode. But the artist concept looks great. I think the reason that Mr. Goforth and others have for not liking it has nothing to do with anything except it's going to compete with the Gathering Place, and it's going to make Tulsa not that big a deal.
Yes.
And they don't want that. They do not want anybody taking away from their little fiefdom.
Yeah, and really, this is the opposite of what both the Gathering Place and what is that place downtown? New park that was put in right by Channel 6 there. And they've got...
you're talking about the Reconciliation?
No, I'm talking about the actual park. There's an actual park that actually that George Kaiser did pay for, and they do outdoor concerts there, a lot of things. My sons perform there, truck vendors and stuff, and then that the Woody Guthrie Museum's right across from it.
I know where you're. I don't know the name of the park.
Yeah, I wish I could.
I know what you're talking about though. Where they have the food trucks come all the time. Yeah, I forget what they. Yeah.
So, but here's the point I'm getting at. When Occupy Wall Street riots and demonstrations happen in Lower Manhattan, the reason the law and order could not really stomp that out is there was a privately owned park that the city government didn't own. And all of these people were staying. I'm looking at it right now. It's called Zuccotti Park on between Cedar and Liberty in Lower Manhattan, right by Wall Street. And everybody would park there. And this thing went on for months. I know people who took part in that. And we had nothing like that here. So when the whole Occupy Wall Street thing happened here, they tried camping out Bartlett Square.
I remember that.
And they all got arrested. And Dewey Bartlett put an end to that.
Yeah.
Now, Kathy Taylor probably wouldn't have put an end to it because she worked in George Kaiser's organization. You know, Kaiser owned her, you might say. Fact is, she paid $7 million that the city didn't owe to Kaiser, claiming, well, we defaulted on a lawsuit. that was on the airport, the hangar. Yeah. Well, anyway, so all of a sudden you see this park downtown that Kaiser owns. And I kind of raised the alarm bells. I wrote stories about it in SoonerPolitics.org that, let's watch this. And then that goes over well. So Kaiser now is doing this big, massive thing called the Gathering Place because they have their own law enforcement there. Now they can bring in the city or the county. But as far as what conduct is allowed there is up to that foundation. Case in point had to do with Second Amendment rights. State law was very clear on things, and yet they would kick people out.
Concealed carry.
Concealed carry in a park. And even though state law forbid that kind of conduct, and we had to push it. Don Kaiser with OK2A worked really hard on that.
Don Kaiser?
Don Spencer. Don Spencer. Yeah, George Kaiser. Don Spencer. Anyway, but this is the dark thing that I'm looking at. Yes, it's a conspiracy theory side of me.
Yeah. Well, it's there's a lot going on that people aren't aware of behind the scenes and people's money. I call George Little Soros. It's the little George. You got the big George and little George. You got Soros is the big George.
Yeah.
And then you got the junior version, which is our local.
Yep.
But they're not very much unalike.
Yeah.
One just works on a larger and a smaller scale. But they use other people's money.
Yeah, and George Kaiser actually couches his liberal agenda more than George Soros does.
One of the things is the what's the schools that they started?
Charter schools. I don't know.
Yeah, there are these schools. Oh my goodness, I can't remember. Anyway, in the school bond, which I don't know. See, people are worried about these. They're always griping about charter schools and giving money, but for some reason, they gave $53 million to his schools that he built for 2 and 3 year olds.
Yes,
Educare.
Yeah, the early learning centers.
Educare. In the school bond issue, I remember he got $53 million for these Educare. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. How is he able to, this is a private, and we're talking about, you got people arguing about they don't want money going to these private or charter schools, yet you're going to give $53 million to George Kaiser, but nobody says a word about, his, but they want to worry about this group starting a charter school over here.
Yeah, and they're using an old federal government sanction money. So there's federal money, if I remember right, because it's community action programs, or CAP.
Yeah, CAP.
And George Kaiser has kind of latched on and taken control of that whole thing and is able to write for federal grants for that. Right. Now, they built a campus that's part of McClure. It's down in my neighborhood. And, it's, 2 and 3 year olds.
They've got 3 of them now.
Yeah.
I know they have 3 of them. And I talked to people who work there and used to and wouldn't anymore because basically they're indoctrination.
Yes.
Camps for young kids.
And they go to the poor parts of town
where
they don't have resistance on that.
Right.
Yeah. I've got a quick headline, but one matter story. I'll finish with the headline after this story. It's sad. I have to tell you right now, this is sad. In Verdigris, it's kind of halfway between Tulsa and Claremore, the police report death of 3 children and their mother. Their mother killed the 3 children and killed herself. And the dad is grieving. They did go through, evidently, divorce, and for a considerable amount of time, the mother only got visitation with supervision. And finally in courts, the judge decided that the mom, even though she has a long history of mental health, a long history of dangerous behavior, allowed her to finally start having unsupervised visitation. She had the kids on Thursday, and I think somehow somebody arranged for somebody the mom trusted to go visit her, really to be able to check and make sure the kids are fine. They get there, and this mother pulls a gun on the other lady and is holding that other lady's 2 kids. Well, eventually, the other lady and 2 kids get out. She notifies the police. Police come, there's a standoff for like 4 hours, only to find out there's no standoff. The woman was dead. She killed her 3 kids, from 9 months old to 11 years old. The reason I'm saying this, the outcry has been, wasn't there somebody to give some kind of warning that there's a mental health problem? And I'm saying, hello, there's a dad who did everything he could until the court stood in his way.
Yeah.
And this is a problem. It's a 2-part problem. One, there's a lot of dads I know who say, if you're in family court, you already got 2 strikes against you. Fortunately, this was a situation where, to some degree, the courts had acknowledged and sided with him. Yes, this mom needs to be supervised around these kids. The other thing is, why wasn't this woman in a mental hospital? And that's the real crux of the problem. We have gutted our state infrastructure of mental health terribly.
My other question is, who was representing this woman? Because surely they should have known that she had some issues. Who was representing it? Who was supporting her?
A lawyer. Who else?
Well, I know, but and who was and someone should have there should be malpractice.
That's a great point, Eddie.
There should be a malpractice statute that allows you to go after lawyers for malpractice in a situation like that.
Well, they enabled this.
That if you represent somebody that you should have known that you should not have fought to get this lady custody, and that happens, it's on you. That you have due diligence. Yeah. You have due diligence to make sure that you're properly protecting the minors involved. Yeah. Then it's on you. That person should lose their law license. Yeah. At least for 5, do a 3-year, 5-year, whatever somebody comes up with. But somehow you just can't let these lawyers go over there because I'm going to get paid. I'm going to do everything I can to get this lady her kids back. I don't care. Because this is how this stuff goes wrong when you allow stuff like that to happen.
I agree. And I think we need to really look into, I think our legislature needs to ask serious questions. I'd like to see an interim study on mental health. I actually helped put together one 2 years ago, and eventually we've got some things happen. We are starting to build new capacity for state-run mental health beds. And the reason I say it has to be state-run, I know there's some great organizations who make some good money. They are for-profit. Well, I say they're not for-profit, but Family and Children's Services, Red Rock, Creoaks, there's a bunch of them that are doing that. But here's what I'm getting at, Eddie. A judge and a cop can't make those facilities who operate almost completely off state funds, state grants and contracts. They're off limits when it comes to a cop or a court saying this person is ordered into this facility for evaluation or for treatment. We went down from, I'll tell you, Veneta, which used to house a big mental health hospital, Eastern State, used to have up to 2,600 beds. Now the whole state has 1/7 of that.
Wow. Yeah, my issue though is more so, why do we have so many cases like this? It seems like it's so much worse than it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So we need to find the root problem of why are so many mothers killing their babies. why are fathers killing their wives and children?
Yeah.
That's the real thing. Why do we even have to worry about all these people in these mental institutions? Why are you and I not crazy? You know, why are our children not crazy? And this and that, you know, why someone today, if you have to use AI, I mean, if ChatGPT can figure out and write the Bible in 3 seconds, rewrite the Declaration of Independence or an encyclopedia in so many seconds, why not go to ChatGPT and tell us how can we solve the mental health crisis in this situation, this situation, and this situation? Come up with solutions, some suggestions. Not necessarily that we have to buy them all, but whatever it takes, we should be able to come up with something that allows us to be able to deal with this. To me, someone doesn't care or they're not trying.
Right. So what I want to say, a big component of this, Sheriff Regalado and I have talked quite a bit about this. In fact, I asked him in testimony when at our last session, interim study, when cops have as a tool to go out to a scene of, you know, disturbance, mental instability seems pretty obvious to an officer who's not a professional, but he's got good sense, you know. He used to be able to say, look, right now I could arrest you and charge you with this crime. You end up in the jail. But what I really think you need is to talk to a good doctor. I think you need a good evaluation and you need some help. I don't want you to have a arrest record. I don't want you to lose your job. And because we had facilities available, that's one part. The other part is this. TCBH, I talked to the administrator about...
Okay, Dave, we're going off in it, blah, 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 blah. We don't have time for that. Seriously, it's too complicated. There's got to be more. I'm going to go to the root.
I understand.
Why are we needing this? Why are we needing this? That's the real issue. Why do we have these people with all these issues
I got that
we didn't have so many years ago?
We didn't hear about it as much because there was more proactive early action.
Well, I'm not buying that either. We did not have as many crazy mothers. We didn't have as many crazy fathers. We didn't have we didn't have gangs robbing kids, gangs beating up old people on the streets.
I understand.
We didn't have this and this and this. There are, to me, simpler solutions that people just don't have the time or don't care enough to deal with.
That's a good point.
That's
and the more congested
issue.
Your cities become, people get in each other's way, where certain people just want to be left alone. So that also adds to it.
There is part of the problem. People want to be left alone.
Well,
and
most people I've talked to who are schizophrenic, their number one thing is, I just need to be left alone.
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah, but at the same time, if people, what's the old thing under Bush, see something, say something?
Yes.
People have to start, this Dave Van Riesingen, there's something wrong with this guy.
Okay.
And somebody needs to listen when they say that something wrong with David Van Riesingen or something's wrong with Eddie Huff. Right. Somebody needs to be. Now, I know our conservative nature is, well, now you're setting us up for, police are going to take my guns, they're going to do anybody has. No, you can't just say something's wrong with that guy. But when it's obvious that everybody in the neighborhood, or you get so many people say, there's something wrong with that guy. There is something wrong, or something wrong with that woman, that person. What was the case that we're talking down in, was it in Wagner County, where the children were?
Well, that was a guy going back to jail for sex offenses, and he knew he was going back in, so he killed some teenage girls. They had the hots for, and killed his live-in girlfriend and kids.
And things like that. Somebody should. We just got to be smarter. It's like our law enforcement.
But Eddie, I can partially answer that if you just let me say this. Very simple. Count it. Less than a minute. what's happening now, this woman, I've read the articles. The neighbors said, yeah, she's been in the mental hospital a number of times. She's been, having to. The problem is they give them 3 days medicine and let them back out.
Yeah.
Before they even know whether the medicine's going to work because of the shortage of beds. So we're sending people out who aren't stable and in all likelihood are going to discontinue taking their meds.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, the administrator at TCBH says, I go across the bus street almost every day and I see meds just laying on the ground that we gave them.
Remember the kid that died in jail?
Yeah.
That was...
Yeah, Elliot Williams.
Right. Okay. His father used to be a client of mine. Yeah. And I'd known him for years back in the 90s. Mm-hmm. And his father tried everything. He came to me, asked me, for help, and could I talk to, at that time, the county commissioners, city county, anybody to get his son. Nope, the only thing they can do is when they get so bad that they can be arrested, go to jail. Yeah. Well, you saw what that happened. Yes. What that did when he got arrested and went to jail.
They killed him in jail.
Yeah. And so
tortured him.
I know that that's a problem, but somehow, it's just sad. And this is sadly, everybody, this is the state that we're in. Yeah. And too often it's because our officials are looking up here, like the city, let's say the mayor, your city council, they're always looking, let's say your city officials, they're either looking up for the next office that they can get to and whose, I hate to say, whose palms they have to grease to get to the next, or what they have to do to become a state rep. A state rep wants to become the congressman, the senator. Who do I have to? And I remember talking to what's his name? Dan. After he got elected the last time. And I could just tell he wasn't cut out for it. He just didn't like it. Yeah. He told me, he said, Eddie, from the moment I wake up the day after the election, I'm out raising money. Yes. Yeah. I have to be out immediately raising money for the next campaign. Yep. He can't even concentrate properly on legislating because he's got to focus. And part of that raising money is bringing in these lobbyists who are going to say, we'll give you the money the next time if you do our will. Yeah. Do our bidding.
See, yes. And that's where the Brumbaugh conversation comes in because everybody falls for that because most of them hate raising money. So when people come to them saying, hey, we'll take care of you, you just take care of us. Right. They'll take that deal.
Right. So anyway, but this is the state our nation is in, and it's from the bottom to the top, and it's a really sad and tragic thing. And we need to wrap up, but yes, but I think even like, let's just get to Trump and DeSantis real quick. I want to, as you may know, Ron DeSantis, he's sinking.
He does.
In fact, last I saw a poll that Ramaswamy, Vivek has now passed him as number 2 in at least one of the polls. DeSantis is no longer number 2; he's number 3. That's pretty bad. To Vivek Ramaswamy too. I mean, it's not like one of the other names. You know. Now, I like Vivek. I do. Vivek, too, I think he's probably right now. He's probably my number 2.
Just like me.
Yeah. And so many others. But But anyway, so we've got a situation where, even he has become guilty of that. He went after the money. Where could he get the most money? And it was from Never Trumpers, which was his mistake. He never should have taken the Never Trumper money. He should have done it the hard way. If he really wanted to do it, go find people and convince them that, well, what he really should have done is remain loyal to Trump and say, whatever, he's the guy, I'm with him, I'm riding this chariot all the way, and then I will, whatever happens to him, I'll be right behind him. That's what he should have done. But he didn't. But anyway, it's just one of these deals that people are so eager and anxious for power, for glory, and the money that has to come with it to get you to that. That's one reason I've never wanted to get into this, because I hate that. I just can't play that game.
Yeah.
And so,
anyway,
Dave,
I want to say this. Why don't we extend an invitation to Steve Kunzweiler, come in, and let's talk mental health, because I think he's going to have a lot that I think he's starting to feel comfortable deal with, because it's hit his family.
That's your deal. I'll just let you guys discuss it.
Because I think he may have been, I remember interviewing him when I was in NAMI board about this, and I felt like, I don't think he gets it. And I remember how bad I was until I was faced with a loved one in need of serious help and mental health. So
sure, if he wants to do it, you do it.
I think we should. I have a quick headline from you. Hunter Biden got sent to bed without his cocaine because he didn't finish his Brussels sprouts. That's from the Babylon Bee.
Babylon Bee sounds like a...
The headline is the joke.
Where'd you get Russell?
I know a Russell Hunter. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I got that. Yeah.
You sounded like me. That's
my
funny.
screen went blank, and I'm trying to be fast, so I went by memory.
Okay.
Hunter Biden sent to bed without his cocaine because he didn't finish his Brussels sprouts. Yes.
All right. Well, anyway, I've got to get home to this dog.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, my wife is on a sojourn, a sabbatical.
I'm so happy for her. She gets to see her grandkids. That's a special.
You're happy for her. Okay. Yeah. She gets to be away from me.
Not that. No, I feel bad for you, Eddie, because your wife is a sweet woman.
Yeah, so she's doing her world. Florida, Northern California, Southern California. She's doing a nice little trip. Nice trip. But I'll get her back.
You know, she took good care of your mom. A long time. She did. This, so
she did.
You both need this time, this break.
Yeah, I really need a break taking care of this dog.
Pooper scooper duty.
I have a geriatric dog. Geriatric dog.
It gets gross. You don't want to ask the details.
Oh my goodness. Oh gee. It's a chore.
Yeah.
No more pets for me. No more pets. This is the last one.
Yep.
Thought we had lost him a couple of times months ago, right after my mom, about a month after my mom passed. But this little guy, he's recovering, but not fast enough. So, Anyway, hey, listen, everybody, it's been great. I'm sure there's a lot more. We, keep your eyes on everything. We didn't even get to the fact of Trump being indicted on another bogus deal, possibly being indicted. Hadn't quite gotten the papers yet, but he believes it's going to be indicted. And they finally got what they're trying to bring it in D.C., where people just hate. A Republican can't get a fair trial in D.C., so unless they're able to get a change of venue, which we don't know. The only good news is if it's delayed long enough, they could possibly delay the trial until after the election. And if that happens, we can get a new attorney general and everything.
Judges don't usually move up the date of the trial.
Right.
They'll just keep moving it back. So right now it's moved back to May of next year. And
not this one, because he hadn't been charged yet.
Oh, yeah, there's that. But this one in the Mar-a-Lago,
Florida.
Right. And
that one is being tried in Florida.
The archives case.
Right, that's in Florida.
Yeah.
But the new one where they're trying to get him on some Civil War insurrection.
The Georgia case,
charge, for January. Oh, yeah, no, that's right. It's the Georgia. No, this one's not. It's not the Georgia one. It's one for January 6th that they're trying to say that he was trying to foment an insurrection.
Oh, God.
And that's why they're trying to do it in D.C., because the Georgia case they can't bring it in D.C. This is a new one, another new one.
Yeah, the trial's supposed to occur where the crime supposedly happened.
Right, and so now they're trying to get him on some obscure Civil War date.
Yes. For when he said, be peaceful, be patriotic. And then when he realized some of the people were getting out of hand, he said, go home. That's supposedly an interaction. I guess that's dog whistle for, torch the place. Go home.
They didn't hear that part.
I know Facebook took it down.
Yeah. All they heard was, we're going to burn down the Capitol.
That's right. Remember, when Facebook deplatformed and Twitter under Dorsey, it was for the audacity of him putting up a video say, people, go home. Get out of the Capitol. Go home.
Well, also, he asked Nancy Pelosi 2 days beforehand, bring out the National Guard.
Yeah.
And she refused to do it.
Yeah.
So he did everything in his power to try to avert any type of, she turned it down. I mean, there's no case here. There's no there.
Oh, and also another hearing in Congress is our FBI director, Ray, refused to answer how many plainclothes people were acting in the crowd that day. Because Ray Epps is a good example of somebody we have on video of stirring up the crowd, yelling, you got to get inside the Capitol, and they haven't even charged that man yet.
Even though, what's his name, Tario, the Cuban.
Yeah, the guy with Proud Boys.
Proud Boys.
Who left the day before, said this looks like a setup.
He wasn't there yet. He's been charged, and he's so many years been sentenced to so many years in prison.
Yes.
Which is insane.
He told Alex Jones, I watched Alex Jones live the day January 6th saying, Tario told me yesterday, I'm getting out of here. This looks like a setup.
Right.
And that's when Alex Jones saw what was going on. He actually went away on the east side and tried to pull the crowd over and have some kind of a, speeches and stuff. So Alex Jones was trying really hard to dissipate what he saw as going awry.
He saw what's happening too,
Yeah.
And we still haven't been told either who was building the scaffolding. Mm-hmm. They had the scaffolds with the hangman.
Well, I don't know about the hangman, but the scaffolding was there for the inauguration.
Right, but no, there was scaffolding with like some hangman's nooses set up there, because somebody said this looks weird. This doesn't look right.
There's a media tower,
right?
And I bet somebody just improvised real quick and did something like that.
Okay, well, it sounded like somebody had been building like some fake,
gallows.
Like an effigy type thing where they're going to hang some, but nobody ever responded. Who did that?
I've never seen any of that.
Yeah, I remember that. That's been a couple of years ago.
But that used to be a joke in high school. We'd put something like that in someone's locker and stuff. Which is okay.
Ku Klux Klan.
Unless you're a NASCAR driver, that happens to be black. Then
you put on their garage door.
Yeah.
But of course, it turns out it's the cord to open.
Yeah, cord with a loop to pull the garage door closed. But yeah, because I'm black.
That guy. Yeah. Oh man, he sure.
What's his name? Corey Bush.
No.
Wallace.
Wallace. Yeah. Bubba.
Wallace. Yeah.
That's not even his real name. He just. I get so angry at people like that.
Yeah.
People just users. There's so much more. We better wrap it up, people.
It's a good show.
There's so much news. We could go on for.
It was such good. It's just a big week. Normally, I'm waiting for Eddie to take another 15 minutes before we start the show. He comes. He says, "I don't need any show."
We've already burned an hour and a half.
All right.
Can you? 2.5. I'm sorry, 2.5 hours. It's so fast. I lost an hour.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Hey, everybody. Take care. We'll talk to you next week.